George Russell and Kimi Antonelli may have just pushed Mercedes into the most dangerous situation possible. A championship war between teammates, inside the fastest car in Formula One. And now the FIA has reportedly been reviewing new evidence from Canada that exposes how aggressive the battle between both Mercedes drivers really became. Because what happened in Montreal was not normal teammate racing anymore. It looked personal. Russell defended like a driver protecting his future. Antonelli attacked like a driver trying to take the team away from him. Aggressive moves into the chicanes. Constant DRS attacks. Radio complaints exploding over team communications. At one point, Antonelli even shouted, "He's using the whole track. He's not leaving me space." And Toto Wolff reportedly watched the entire battle from the pit wall with visible tension on his face. But here is where the story becomes explosive. George Russell was not losing that fight. He was winning. Sprint pole. Sprint victory. Grand Prix pole. Leading the race comfortably. Then suddenly, his Mercedes completely died. No electronics. No MGUK. No regenerative braking. Nothing. And while Russell stood outside the car looking devastated, Antonelli inherited the lead and drove toward his 5th consecutive Formula One victory. That is when the emotional balance inside Mercedes completely changed. Because after the race, Russell publicly admitted something that shocked the paddock. Right now, it's his, unless he loses it. That does not sound like confidence. That sounds like a driver realizing the championship, and maybe even the team itself, is slipping away from him. And then came the most dangerous part. Russell admitted the pressure is now gone. I have nothing to lose. That should seriously terrify Mercedes. Because Formula One becomes incredibly dangerous when elite drivers stop racing with fear. And now the FIA's growing interest in the intensity of the Canada battle is creating one terrifying question inside the paddock. Has the Mercedes teammate war already gone too far to control? Because once you understand what really happened during those brutal first 30 laps between Russell and Antonelli, the entire future of Mercedes suddenly looks far more explosive than anyone imagined. Subscribe if you love Formula One stories that reveal what teams desperately try to hide. At first, Mercedes tried to present the Canada battle as healthy competition. 2 elite drivers. 2 racers pushing each other to the limit. Exactly what a championship team wants. But the deeper people inside the paddock analyzed the first 30 laps between George Russell and Kimi Antonelli, the more uncomfortable the situation became. Because this did not look like controlled teammate racing anymore. It looked emotional. Personal. And according to the growing FIA attention after Canada, several moments during the battle pushed dangerously close to the limit of what Mercedes can realistically manage internally. Now, to understand why the tension exploded so quickly, you need to understand something important. George Russell arrived in Canada under enormous pressure already. Not because he was underperforming. Actually, the opposite. He was driving incredibly well. Sprint pole. Sprint victory. Grand Prix pole. And for the first time all season, he finally looked capable of stopping Antonelli's momentum completely. That matters emotionally. Because until Canada, the entire Formula One narrative had started shifting toward Antonelli as the future champion of Mercedes. The unstoppable rookie. The next superstar. The driver winning everything. Russell needed Canada desperately. Not just for points. For authority. For identity inside the team. And from the very beginning of the race, you could feel how aggressively he was protecting that position. Every defensive move carried emotion. Every braking battle looked personal. Especially into the chicanes. Antonelli attacked repeatedly using DRS. Russell responded by closing the door harder and harder each lap. Then came the radio message that changed the atmosphere completely. He's using the whole track. He's not leaving me space. That sentence mattered enormously. Because drivers only complain like that publicly when frustration is already boiling underneath the surface. And inside Mercedes, everyone immediately understood the danger. This rivalry was no longer calm internally. It was escalating. Fast. Even Toto Wolff reportedly monitored the fight from the pit wall with visible tension while watching the telemetry. Now imagine the pressure inside that garage during those moments. Your 2 drivers are dominating the race. The car looks untouchable. But both championship contenders are pushing each other so aggressively that one mistake could destroy the entire weekend. That is every team principal's nightmare. Especially because Antonelli no longer behaves like a rookie psychologically. Canada proved that completely. He attacked Russell directly. Fearlessly. Aggressively. Like a driver who genuinely believes the team already belongs to him. And maybe the most dangerous part for Mercedes is this. Russell could feel it too. Because throughout those opening laps, George was not defending like a comfortable championship contender. He was defending like somebody trying to stop control from slipping away. That changes everything emotionally inside Formula One teams. Then came lap 30. Turn 9. Russell leading. Antonelli still hunting him down. And suddenly, everything died. No electronics. No MGUK. No regenerative braking. Nothing. Russell later described the moment in brutally honest terms. Everything just switched off. And what makes this story so devastating emotionally is this. George was driving one of the greatest weekends of his entire career. He did almost everything perfectly. And still left Canada 43 points behind Antonelli in the championship. That is psychologically crushing. Especially when the driver benefiting from the disaster is your own teammate. Meanwhile, Antonelli inherited the lead and calmly controlled the race to his 5th consecutive victory. No panic. No mistakes. Just total confidence. And suddenly, the emotional balance inside Mercedes shifted dramatically. Because after the race, Russell sounded less like a title contender, and more like a driver emotionally cornered. Right now, it's his, unless he loses it. That sentence shocked the paddock. Not because it was false. Because of how honest it sounded. And then came the most dangerous line of all. The pressure is gone now. I have nothing to lose. That should seriously terrify Mercedes moving forward. Because Formula One becomes incredibly dangerous when elite drivers stop racing with long-term caution and start racing emotionally instead. Especially drivers like Russell. Aggressive under braking. Willing to defend hard. Already frustrated by reliability problems this season. And now Mercedes faces the worst possible situation. Antonelli is racing with total confidence. Russell may soon start racing with anger. Then the real fear inside Mercedes started after the race ended. Not because Antonelli won again. Because of what the data from those first 30 laps may have revealed about the future of the team. And honestly, this is where the situation becomes genuinely dangerous. Because when the FIA and rival teams started reviewing the onboard footage, telemetry behavior, and defensive patterns from Canada, one thing became impossible to ignore. Russell and Antonelli were no longer racing like teammates protecting a championship lead. They were racing like rivals trying to establish dominance. That difference changes everything. Especially inside a team already carrying enormous championship pressure. Think about the psychology of the situation. Russell entered Canada needing control back. For months, Antonelli had dominated the narrative around Mercedes. The young superstar. The future champion. The unstoppable rookie. Canada was finally supposed to be Russell's answer. And honestly, for almost 30 laps, it was. He defended brilliantly. Managed tire wear. Controlled track position. Absorbed relentless pressure from Antonelli without braking. But underneath that performance, the emotional tension kept growing. Because Antonelli refused to behave like a second driver. Every attack looked aggressive. Every failed overtake attempt increased the frustration. And every defensive move from Russell looked harder than the previous one. That is exactly why Antonelli's radio message became so important. He's using the whole track. He's not leaving me space. That was not just communication. That was irritation becoming public. And inside Mercedes, those moments matter enormously. Because teams can manage rivalry. What they cannot manage easily is emotional escalation. And Canada may have exposed the first signs that this rivalry is becoming emotionally unstable. Especially because Antonelli no longer races like somebody trying to impress the team. He races like somebody who believes the team already belongs to him. That psychological shift is massive. You could see it in the overtakes. The confidence under braking. The willingness to attack Russell repeatedly without hesitation. Most young drivers still show restraint against established teammates. Antonelli showed none. And honestly, that may be the most important detail Mercedes discovered after Canada. Kimi is no longer intimidated by George Russell at all. That changes the internal balance of power immediately. Because for years, Russell represented Mercedes' future after Hamilton. Now suddenly, Antonelli looks like the driver taking that future away from him in real time. And then came the retirement. The moment that transformed pressure into emotional chaos. Russell leading comfortably. Championship still alive. And suddenly, total electrical failure. No power. No electronics. No braking regeneration. Nothing. Meanwhile, Antonelli inherited the lead and drove calmly toward another victory. That emotional contrast was devastating. One driver climbing out of a dead car. The other celebrating a 5th consecutive win. And now the championship gap stands at 43 points. That is not just mathematically significant. It changes psychology. Because now Russell no longer looks like the driver controlling the championship fight. He looks like the driver chasing momentum already slipping away. That is why his post-race comments sounded so dangerous. Right now, it's his, unless he loses it. And then the line Mercedes should fear most. The pressure is gone now. I have nothing to lose. Drivers without pressure are unpredictable. Especially drivers with Russell's aggression under braking and defensive style. Now imagine the next direct fight between them. Antonelli racing with supreme confidence. Russell racing with emotional frustration. Inside the fastest car in Formula One. That is how teammate wars become explosive. And there is another layer making this even more dangerous for Mercedes. Reliability fear. According to the information emerging after Canada, Russell's retirement likely came from catastrophic stress in the new MGUK electrical systems under the 2026 regulations. That means Mercedes may already be pushing the technical limits of the W17. Now combine that with two drivers racing each other flat out every weekend. The pressure on the machinery increases. The emotional tension increases. The risk increases. Everything starts feeding into everything else. And honestly, Toto Wolff may already understand the terrifying truth Canada exposed. Mercedes no longer has a normal teammate rivalry. It has the beginning of a full championship civil war. And after Canada, both Russell and Antonelli know there is no turning back anymore. But the most terrifying part of Mercedes' Canada crisis may still be coming next. Because now the rivalry moves to Monaco. And Monaco changes everything emotionally between teammates. No escape roads. No room for mistakes. No easy overtakes. Just pressure. Pure pressure. Which means qualifying becomes almost more important than the race itself. Now imagine Russell and Antonelli arriving there after Canada. One driver carrying unstoppable momentum. The other carrying frustration, anger, and a growing sense that the championship is slipping away. That combination is explosive. Especially because Monaco amplifies every emotional weakness inside Formula One drivers. Every wall feels closer. Every lap feels personal. And every tiny mistake becomes catastrophic. That should seriously terrify Mercedes after what happened in Canada. Because the internal tension is no longer hidden now. The radio complaints exposed it. The aggressive defending exposed it. Russell's post-race comments definitely exposed it. And perhaps most importantly, Antonelli's behavior exposed it too. Because Kimi no longer races like a rookie trying to earn respect. He races like a driver expecting to dominate the sport. You could hear it after the race. Kimi Antonelli, world champion. That sentence matters psychologically. Because once a young driver truly believes the championship belongs to him, the aggression level changes permanently. The patience disappears. The hesitation disappears. And now Russell must deal with a teammate who attacks like somebody with absolutely no fear left. That is incredibly dangerous inside the fastest car in Formula One. Especially because George Russell himself is entering a completely different emotional phase too. For most of the season, Russell still sounded controlled publicly. Frustrated, yes. But measured. Canada changed that completely. The pressure is gone now. I have nothing to lose. That line may end up defining the rest of the season. Because drivers with nothing to lose stop thinking about consequences. They defend harder. Attack later under braking. Take risks they normally avoid. And Formula One history shows exactly what happens when two elite teammates reach that psychological state at the same time. The collisions become inevitable. Mercedes knows this better than anyone. Hamilton versus Rosberg nearly destroyed the atmosphere inside the team during their championship years. And honestly, the Russell versus Antonelli dynamic is starting to feel emotionally similar. One driver protecting status. The other trying to take it away permanently. That tension creates paranoia naturally inside a garage. Not conspiracy. Paranoia. Every strategy call becomes sensitive. Every reliability issue becomes emotionally loaded. And after Canada, reliability is now becoming a terrifying factor too. Because according to the information emerging after the race, Russell's catastrophic retirement likely came from the MGUK inverter system operating near the limit of the new 2026 regulations. That means Mercedes may already be pushing the West 17 dangerously close to its electrical limits. Now imagine both drivers continuing to race each other this aggressively every weekend. The cars get stressed harder. The drivers push harder. The emotional tension keeps rising. Eventually, something breaks. And Toto Wolff understands this better than anyone. That is why his post-race comments sounded careful. Very careful. We have two drivers who want to win. That's what we want to see. What we don't want are incidents that hurt the team. That sentence sounded less like confidence, and more like a warning. Because deep down, Mercedes may already realize the terrifying truth Canada exposed. This rivalry is no longer manageable through simple team meetings and calm conversations. The emotional momentum has become too strong. Antonelli smells a world championship. Russell feels the championship slipping away. And both drivers believe they are the rightful future of Mercedes. That is the perfect recipe for a Formula One civil war. Especially now that the FIA and rival teams are paying close attention to every aggressive move, every radio message, and every defensive decision coming from the silver cars. Because after Canada, one thing became impossible to ignore. Mercedes may have the fastest car in Formula One, but it also has the most dangerous driver rivalry on the grid.